Prada just posted 15% revenue growth while the luxury market shrank 2.7%. I was at a trunk show in Soho about 6 months ago, standing near a rack of ready-to-wear, when I overheard a guy, well-dressed, clearly knew his brands, tell his friend that Prada was coasting. His exact words were, "They haven't done anything interesting since the nylon bags. They're living off the logo." His friend nodded. They both moved on to look at Brunello Cucinelli. And I just stood there, because I had read Prada Group's fiscal year 2024 numbers that morning. 15% revenue growth. In a year, the global luxury market shrank 2.7%. Coasting. That gap between what people confidently say about Prada and what Prada's balance sheet actually shows is worth examining. Not because one guy at a trunk show was wrong, but because the conventional read on this company has been wrong in the same specific way for several years running. The standard luxury narrative for 2024 goes like this. The post-pandemic boom ended, aspirational consumers pulled back, and the big houses felt it. Kering's revenue dropped 15% in the third quarter. LVMH reported a 2% decline in revenue for the first 9 months. The global luxury market contracted to $462.3 billion, down 2.7%. Prada Group posted net revenue of €5.43 billion, roughly $5.7 billion, up 15% year over year. At constant exchange rates, it was 17%. Group net income rose 25% to €839 million. Their EBIT margin hit 23.6%. They ended the year sitting on a net cash position of €600 million, up from $197 million the year before. Andrea Guerra, their first chief executive officer from outside the founding family and former Luxottica chief executive officer, who nearly tripled that company's sales over a decade, described it as 4 consecutive years of double-digit, like-for-like growth coupled with margin expansion and cash generation. So when people say, nobody can explain why Prada keeps winning, what they usually mean is that the explanation does not fit inside the word hype. The number that stops most analysts mid-sentence is 93%. Miu Miu posted year-over-year retail growth of 93% for fiscal 2024. The brand reached €1.37 billion in sales. Retail sales climbed 50% in the first quarter, 57% in the second quarter, and 105% in the third quarter. 105% quarterly growth for a fashion brand that has been around since 1992. The instinct is to call this a viral moment, a fluke driven by social media. But flukes do not compound across 4 quarters, and they do not survive into the following year. In the first 9 months of 2025, Miu Miu retail sales were still up 41% year-on-year. The brand now contributes roughly a quarter of group revenues. According to the List Index, which ranks fashion's most desirable brands based on measured consumer behavior, not opinion polls, Miu Miu was the world's hottest brand for 3 out of 4 quarters in 2024. The Prada brand itself was consistently in the top 3. Guerra described what happened structurally. For a few years, the business strayed a bit too far from the brand. Everything on the runway and in the branding was still very precise, but this was not always represented in the products or in stores. He said that since around 3 years ago, they have put everything back in line. He also noted something less obvious. Miu Miu hit specific trends in society, linking the brand, its products, and its identity to what consumers are looking for. The creative machinery behind that linkage has a name. Lada Volkova, the Russian-born stylist who previously worked at Vetements and Balenciaga, has been consulting at Miu Miu since 2020. She is widely credited with developing the layered, slightly undone aesthetic that became the brand's signature. As Business of Fashion noted in a profile, the brand was always cool, but she has managed to supercharge the aesthetic that speaks to youthfulness and cute in a world often obsessed with the Balenciaga style, where, ironically, Volkova also worked. Meanwhile, on the Prada side, the co-creative director partnership between Miuccia Prada and Raf Simons, announced in February 2020 as the first major design talent from outside the Prada family since the house's founding, produced something rarer than a hit collection. It produced consistency. 14 consecutive quarters of high-quality like-for-like growth does not come from one good runway season. It comes from the product in the store matching what was shown on the runway season after season. There's a persistent assumption in menswear circles that Prada's growth is just price inflation, that they are doing what the rest of the sector did, jacking up prices and harvesting the top end. The pricing strategy says the opposite. Guerra stated publicly that Prada would limit across-the-board price increases to low single digits. He said they had always been a little bit too short with their price range, and that the real value comes in stretching the price range. Stretching upward, yes, but not abandoning the lower end. Miu Miu expanded its product categories to include bag charms and small accessories priced from roughly €379 to €995. Demand for bag charms alone surged 352% in the final months of 2024. This connects directly to what you've been watching. If you've observed the luxury market over the last 2 years, you've watched prices climb while the product proposition stayed flat or got worse. You've watched heritage houses raise the entry point on leather goods by 30 to 40% and call it brand elevation. Prada looked at that same market and decided the play was range, give the top-end customer a reason to spend more, and give the younger customer a way in that does not feel like a concession. That dual motion is structurally different from what LVMH's fashion division or Kering's Gucci have been doing, and the revenue lines reflect it. The surface-level read on Prada is that the fashion brand does fashion well, but the portfolio of moves over the last few years does not fit neatly into any single category playbook. Today, Prada Group includes the flagship Prada brand, the rapidly growing Miu Miu, and Church's, the British shoemaker. Together, they form a diversified luxury portfolio. In 2022, NASA awarded Axiom Space a contract valued at $228 million to develop next-generation spacesuits for the Artemis III mission, humankind's first return to the lunar surface since 1972. Axiom's partner for the suit's design and materials engineering was Prada. In October 2024, at the International Astronautical Congress in Milan, they unveiled the flight design together. Lorenzo Bertelli, Prada's chief marketing officer, framed it as a continuation of the company's decades of technical work with the Luna Rossa America's Cup sailing team, dating back to the mid-90s. A luxury fashion house co-engineering a suit for a moon landing is not a brand collaboration. It is a capability statement. Then in April 2025, Prada signed a definitive agreement to acquire 100% of Versace from Capri Holdings for approximately €1.3 billion. Patrizio Bertelli, Prada's chairman and Miuccia's husband, strongly pushed for the acquisition. Observers noted the price was roughly 34% below what Capri had paid for Versace in 2018. By December 2025, the acquisition was complete. In March, Donatella Versace stepped down as creative chief after nearly 3 decades. Pro forma, the group's revenue composition shifted to Prada at 64%, Miu Miu at 22%, and Versace at 13%. Analyst Luca Solca from Bernstein called Versace long past its heyday and said the challenge would be making it relevant again. Guerra's response was characteristically measured. Versace has huge potential. The journey will be long and will require disciplined execution and patience. Dario Vitale, formerly the design director at Miu Miu, the brand that just grew 93%, was installed as Versace's creative chief, replacing Donatella. Solca also flagged a concern worth noting. Prada, which is still the very bulk of the business, could be well past its peak growth potential. In the first 9 months of 2025, the Prada brand's retail sales dipped 1% year-on-year. The group still grew 9% overall, 20 consecutive quarters of growth, carried largely by Miu Miu's 35% gain. Whether the flagship can re-accelerate while the company simultaneously rehabilitates Versace is a genuine open question. But that question is a luxury most competitors would kill to have. Growing 9% while your main brand is flat in a market that shrank because your secondary brand is up 35% and you just acquired a third at a discount, that's not coasting. That's portfolio construction. The guy at the trunk show in Soho was looking at the nylon, and he saw a brand living off its past. The balance sheet was doing something else entirely. $5.7 billion in revenue, $600 million in net cash, a spacesuit on its way to the moon, and a newly acquired Italian rival being fitted with the creative team that just produced the fastest-growing brand in luxury. Coasting looks different than I remember.